You can't do this! This is outrageous!
Officer, these papers are all in order. Let me see those.
This is ridiculous! He's trespassing!
Ma'am, please calm down. I'll review this.
The flashing red and blue lights reflected across the calm lake as two police cruisers stopped in front of the HOA headquarters. Neighbors poured out of their homes, whispering and pointing toward the strange sight that no one in the community had ever imagined. The entire HOA office was surrounded by a brand new black steel fence. Construction barriers blocked every entrance. Survey stakes marked the property line. And standing quietly outside the gate was Ethan Walker, his hands in his pockets, calmly watching the chaos unfold. Across from him, HOA President Patricia Monroe pounded her fist against the locked gate. "This is outrageous," she shouted. "You can't do this." Ethan didn't raise his voice. "I didn't," he replied. "The property survey did." Officer Jason Reed stepped between them, looking from the fence to a thick folder of legal documents in Ethan's hands. "What exactly is going on here?" he asked. Patricia pointed at Ethan. "Arrest him. He's trapped us inside our own building." Officer Reed opened the survey packet, scanned the official county seal, and suddenly, his expression changed. He looked back at Patricia, then at the fence, then quietly asked, "Ma'am, when was the last time the HOA verified its property boundaries?" Patricia's confident smile disappeared. The crowd fell silent. Something was very wrong. If you enjoy stories where justice always wins, subscribe, and let's begin. 3 days earlier, for nearly 12 years, Ethan Walker and his wife Sarah had spent every summer at their cozy Cedar Lake cabin in the peaceful community of Blue Water Shores. The cabin wasn't luxurious, but it held something far more valuable: memories. Ethan had built the wraparound porch himself. Sarah had planted every flower surrounding the front yard. Every anniversary, they watched the sunset from the wooden dock Ethan had repaired board by board. To them, it wasn't just property. It was home. Most neighbors respected one another. Children rode bicycles along the quiet streets. Fishermen greeted each other before sunrise, and families gathered beside the lake every weekend. But over the past 2 years, the atmosphere had changed. One person had slowly transformed the neighborhood into a place where everyone felt watched. HOA President Patricia Monroe. As one of the area's top real estate agents, Patricia cared more about appearances than people. Every flower bed, mailbox, and fence became another opportunity to remind residents that she controlled the community. Many homeowners quietly paid unfair fines, simply to avoid arguments. Others moved away. No one wanted to challenge her. Until she chose the wrong cabin. On a warm Monday morning, Ethan found a bright red envelope taped to his mailbox. Final property notice. Inside was a letter claiming his cabin violated updated HOA regulations. According to the notice, his dock extended beyond approved community shoreline standards. The penalty? A $12,000 fine. If unpaid within 14 days, the HOA reserved the right to begin legal action against the property. Sarah stared at the letter in disbelief. $12,000? We've had that dock for over 10 years. Ethan carefully reread every page. Something didn't feel right. The document mentioned a regulation neither of them had ever seen before. Even stranger, the rule carried no approval date, no board signatures, no meeting record, just Patricia's signature. Instead of reacting emotionally, Ethan quietly folded the papers. "I'm not paying $1 until I know where this came from." Sarah nodded. "I've got a bad feeling this isn't really about the dock." Neither of them knew how right she was. The following afternoon, Ethan walked into the HOA office, carrying copies of his original property documents. Patricia welcomed him with a polished smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm glad you came," she said. "I'd like to resolve this," Ethan replied. She leaned back in her chair. "There is a very simple solution." Ethan waited. Patricia slid another folder across the desk. Inside was something Ethan never expected. A purchase agreement. The buyer listed on the first page was Patricia's son, Brandon Monroe. The offer was far below the cabin's actual value. Patricia smiled. "My son has always dreamed of owning a lakefront cabin." Ethan looked up slowly. "I'm not selling." Her smile faded. "You should think carefully." "I already have." She folded her hands. "If you refuse, those HOA violations may become much more expensive." For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Then Ethan stood, collected every document, and quietly walked toward the door. Just before he reached it, Patricia called after him. "You'll regret making this difficult." Ethan paused without turning around. "No," he said calmly. "I think one of us will." As he stepped outside, he noticed an elderly neighbor sitting on a nearby bench. Harold Foster, a retired land surveyor, had been watching the entire conversation through the office window. Harold slowly stood, looked at Ethan, and said in a low voice, "I think it's time someone showed you something." Ethan frowned. "What do you mean?" Harold glanced back toward the HOA office to make sure no one was watching. Then he reached into his truck and pulled out a weathered metal document tube. "You may be standing on the only piece of evidence that can stop Patricia." Ethan looked at the tube and suddenly realized this fight had become much bigger than a fake HOA fine. Escalation continues. The security camera footage spread through Blue Water Shores much faster than Patricia expected. By that evening, 3 neighbors had quietly sent copies to Ethan's attorney, Olivia Bennett. The videos all showed the same thing: Patricia repeatedly threatening homeowners who questioned her authority. Ethan wasn't the first target. He was simply the first person willing to fight back. The next morning, Olivia called Ethan. "I've got good news," she said. "The county recorder sent over the certified property records. And there are 2 different shoreline maps on file." Ethan frowned. "2? Yes. One is the original county survey. The other was filed years later as part of an HOA boundary update. Which one is correct?" Olivia paused. "That's exactly what I'm trying to prove." Before she could explain further, another email arrived in her inbox. No name, no message, just a single attachment labeled, "Read before Friday's HOA meeting." Olivia opened it. Inside were scanned copies of internal HOA emails. Her eyes widened. Several messages appeared to show Patricia pressuring board members to approve fines without proper votes. One email stood out. "Once Ethan gives up the cabin, Brandon's purchase can move forward." Olivia immediately forwarded the file to a digital forensics expert. "If these emails are authentic," she whispered, "this changes everything." Friday evening, nearly every homeowner packed into the Blue Water Shores clubhouse for the monthly HOA meeting. Patricia stood confidently at the podium. "As many of you know," she began, "one homeowner has repeatedly violated community rules and refused to cooperate." She looked directly at Ethan. "We cannot allow one resident to ignore the standards that protect everyone's property values." A few people nodded. Most stayed silent. Then Ethan stood. "I'd like to ask one question." Patricia forced a smile. "You'll have 3 minutes." Ethan held up the latest fine notice. "Can you show everyone where this rule was legally approved?" The room became very quiet. Patricia glanced toward the board members. "It's part of the updated regulations." Ethan asked again. "Which meeting approved it?" No answer. Olivia stood beside him and calmly addressed the room. "We requested those meeting minutes from the HOA office." She paused. "They don't exist." Whispers spread across the audience. One board member, Rachel Brooks, suddenly looked uncomfortable. Patricia quickly interrupted. "Our attorney will handle these accusations." Olivia shook her head. "I'm afraid your attorney has already resigned from representing the HOA this afternoon." Patricia's face went pale. "What?" The law firm cited concerns about document integrity. The room erupted with murmurs. Before Patricia could recover, Officer Jason Reed walked through the clubhouse doors. Every conversation stopped. He wasn't there to arrest anyone. He simply carried an official envelope. "Mrs. Monroe," he said professionally, "you've been served with a county preservation order." Patricia stared at him. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It means no HOA records, emails, financial files, or meeting documents may be destroyed or altered while the county reviews a property boundary complaint." For the first time all evening, Patricia looked genuinely nervous. She accepted the envelope with shaking hands. As people slowly left the meeting, Rachel quietly caught up with Ethan in the parking lot. "I can't keep doing this," she said softly. Ethan looked at her. "What are you talking about?" Rachel glanced around to make sure no one was listening. "There are things you don't know." She reached into her purse and pulled out a small USB flash drive. "I made copies before anyone could delete them." Ethan stared at the drive. "What's on it?" Rachel swallowed hard. "Everything." Just as Ethan reached for it, headlights swept across the parking lot. A black SUV stopped nearby. Patricia had come back, and she had seen Rachel standing with Ethan. Part 5. Act 4. The lowest point. The black SUV stopped so abruptly that gravel sprayed across the parking lot. Patricia Monroe stepped out, her expression icy. "Rachel!" she called. "What are you doing?" Rachel froze. The USB drive was still in her hand. Without answering, she slipped it into Ethan's palm. "Don't let her get it," she whispered. Patricia strode toward them. "What did you just give him?" "It's none of your business," Rachel replied, her voice trembling. Patricia's calm facade cracked. "It absolutely is my business. That drive contains HOA property." Officer Jason Reed, who was still nearby after serving the preservation order, noticed the confrontation and walked over. "Is there a problem here?" he asked. Patricia forced a smile. "No problem at all, officer. Just a misunderstanding." Ethan quietly placed the USB drive into his jacket pocket. "We're leaving." Patricia stared at him. "This isn't over." "No," Ethan answered. "I don't think it is." Back at Olivia Bennett's office, they plugged the USB drive into a secure computer. Hundreds of files appeared. Financial reports, board meeting drafts, private emails, property surveys, and one folder labeled Shoreline Project. Olivia opened it. Inside were emails between Patricia and a private developer discussing lakefront properties, including Ethan's cabin. One message made everyone in the room go silent. "Once Walker is pressured into selling, Brandon will purchase the cabin below market value. We'll adjust the shoreline easement afterward." Sarah covered her mouth. "They planned this from the beginning." Olivia nodded grimly. "But we still have to prove these files are authentic." Before anyone could celebrate, Ethan's phone buzzed. It was Harold Foster. His voice was unsteady. "Ethan, someone broke into my garage." "What?" "The original survey maps are gone." Ethan's heart sank. They rushed to Harold's house. The garage door hung open. Storage boxes had been overturned. The metal document tube was lying empty on the floor. Harold shook his head. They knew exactly what they were looking for. Officer Reed examined the scene. "There are no signs of forced entry." "So they had a key?" Sarah asked. "Or someone let them in," the officer replied. The loss of the original survey felt devastating. Without it, proving the true property boundaries would become much harder. For the first time since the fight began, Ethan wondered if Patricia had stayed one step ahead all along. The next morning, the county notified Olivia that the emergency hearing would proceed, but without the original survey, the judge might not grant immediate relief. Patricia seized the opportunity. She sent another certified letter demanding payment of every accumulated fine and warning that foreclosure proceedings would begin if Ethan refused. Neighbors who had quietly supported Ethan started pulling away. Some feared retaliation. Others believed Patricia's claim that Ethan had fabricated the entire story. Even local social media turned against him. Comments accused him of trying to destroy the neighborhood. One post read, "If he hates the HOA so much, why doesn't he just leave?" Sarah looked at the screen and sighed. "They're winning." Ethan didn't answer. That evening he stood alone on the dock, watching the sun disappear behind the lake. For the first time, he questioned whether fighting had been worth it. His savings were shrinking. His reputation was damaged. The original evidence was gone. And the hearing was only 2 days away. Then, just as he turned to go inside, headlights illuminated the driveway. A silver county records vehicle rolled to a stop. A woman stepped out carrying a sealed evidence box. She walked straight toward Ethan. "Mr. Walker?" "Yes." She smiled. "I think we found something that was never supposed to be found." Ethan looked at the box. "What is it?" She held it up carefully. "The county's forgotten archive." And inside was a document that hadn't been seen in nearly 20 years. Part 6, ACT 5. Justice Begins. Ethan carefully carried the sealed archive box into Olivia Bennett's office. The county archivist broke the security seal in front of everyone. Inside were dozens of aging documents, survey logs, engineering sketches, and microfilm copies that had been stored during a courthouse renovation nearly 20 years earlier. Olivia put on a pair of white gloves and began examining the files. After several tense minutes, she suddenly stopped. "Here it is." She slowly unfolded a large certified survey map bearing the official county seal. Harold Foster leaned forward. His eyes widened. This is the master survey. Unlike the copy that had been stolen, this was the original county certified record. Every property line was clearly marked. The map showed one stunning fact. The HOA headquarters had been built several feet beyond its legal boundary, partially occupying land protected by a recorded shoreline easement. Even more surprising, Ethan's cabin and dock were fully compliant with the original county survey. Every fine Patricia had issued was based on altered HOA records, not the county's official documents. Olivia smiled for the first time in days. This is exactly what we needed. The emergency hearing began the following morning. Judge Margaret Sullivan entered the courtroom and immediately reminded both sides that only verified evidence would be considered. Patricia arrived looking confident, accompanied by a new attorney. Ethan sat quietly beside Sarah and Olivia. Patricia's attorney argued first. Your Honor, Mr. Walker has ignored multiple HOA violations and intentionally interfered with community operations. Olivia stood. Your Honor, we'd like to introduce newly recovered certified county records. The courtroom became silent as the master survey was placed before the judge. Judge Sullivan examined each page carefully. She compared it with the HOA boundary map submitted by Patricia. Her expression slowly hardened. She looked over her glasses. Mrs. Monroe? Yes, Your Honor? Can you explain why these property boundaries do not match the county certified survey? Patricia hesitated. I relied on the HOA's records. Olivia immediately presented another exhibit, the recovered emails from the USB drive. A digital forensics expert testified that the emails were authentic and had not been altered. One message appeared on the courtroom screen. Once Walker is pressured into selling, Brandon will purchase the cabin below market value. The gallery erupted in whispers. Patricia's attorney quietly lowered his head. Judge Sullivan called for order. Then Olivia introduced one final piece of evidence. The neighborhood security camera footage showing Patricia threatening Ethan with escalating fines after he refused to sell. Officer Jason Reed confirmed the recording had been collected legally and remained unedited. The evidence painted one clear picture. This had never been about HOA rules. It had been about taking Ethan's lake cabin. Before the hearing ended, Judge Sullivan issued a temporary injunction canceling every fine against Ethan and ordering an immediate independent audit of the HOA's finances and property records. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered as neighbors watched in disbelief. Within days, the audit uncovered forged signatures, altered boundary maps, and unauthorized financial transactions connected to Patricia's administration. Several HOA board members admitted they had approved documents without knowing they had been changed. At a packed community meeting the following week, homeowners cast their votes. One by one, ballots were counted. The result was overwhelming. Patricia Monroe and the entire HOA leadership were removed from office. A new interim board promised complete transparency and voted to restore every homeowner who had been unfairly fined. Weeks later, Ethan hired a licensed contractor to install a tall black security fence, but not around anyone's home. It surrounded the exact legal boundary of the land, protecting the HOA headquarters, fully complying with the county survey and local law. Patricia watched from across the street as workers finished the final gate. For the first time, she had no authority to stop them. Ethan simply nodded politely before walking away with Sarah. He didn't celebrate Patricia's downfall. He celebrated that the truth had finally prevailed. As life slowly returned to normal, families once again gathered by the lake, children played freely, and neighbors greeted one another without fear. The community had learned a lesson it would never forget. Power without integrity always fails.